And this makes sense too, because you look at what Trump said about John Bolton. So if you know John
Bolton's a maniac.
John Bolton is
original guy
actually a maniac.
He was
he was the UN ambassador. Yeah, that guy wants to fight like me. You'd be like, that guy there, kill him, bomb him.
Yeah,
him.
But he put the fear of God into foreign leaders, because he would come into these meetings and they're like, this guy's a fireball. We don't know what he's gonna do. And so Trump loved having him there because
rants. To be honest, he has some funny rants.
He got so many better deals because he had John Bolton in the room. So I think Marco Rubio is not that extreme, but I think he'll get something similar where it's like a good cop, bad cop
Donald
situation.
Trump did go and speak to someone in the Middle East. I can't remember which country it was, and they said, I don't want any more Americans to die. We're going to leave on this day. And not another American died for like 18 months. They just stopped killing. There was no more
Afghanistan
fighting.
and the
Afghanistan?
Taliban.
Yeah. And then he said, like in the meeting, it's reported that he basically just took out a piece of paper and there's a photo of the Taliban leader's house. And he's like,
oh, I did see that.
I'll blow your house up and kill everyone in your family if you kill another American. And then they're just like, you know what? Actually, we don't want to do that. We are going to stop fighting. I think that's perfectly fine. We don't need some guy who wants to get involved in, fighting Russia and China and Chile and Brazil. Like, just everybody calm down.
Yeah.
No fighting.
It's better for the world, I think.
I'd just trade. I'll play a bit of Civ.
I'm not a big war guy. I think that's
war is it's a waste of time. Plus,
good.
I'm a military age male. I don't want to get drafted and die.
Yeah. I think I'm pushing it. Getting up there.
No, you're in your early 30s. What are you talking about? This guy, I've got a gimpy leg though. For anyone watching the government,
just wait till you're 40, then be really
pro-war.
I've
got asthma. Yeah. Right. Hello and welcome to a vaguely philosophical podcast hosted by me, Carlton Sin, a traditional Catholic, university graduate, and member of the online Team Australia chess comp.
Oh, is that recent?
Yeah, that's recent, yeah. Joining me as always, the resident fashionista, philosophy expert, and maybe no longer most eligible bachelor, Cameron Wright.
When's this time dated? We'll put this back. Yeah.
Joining us in the cave is Dan Ade, a tech wizard, fellow Catholic based, and full-time American living in Australia. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Full-time American.
You know what it's like. Full-time American living in Australia.
What's your occupation?
Today we're going to go through sort of political philosophy and want to dive into essentially just the hottest thing that we're talking about is the American election, basically. How that affects everybody around the world. They're kind of the global hegemon. So whatever happens there does tend to affect us in a pretty profound way. So we brought in the expert, Dan, to kind of give us a bit of a lecture, bit of a rundown. And cool. Take us away, Dan. What can you tell us? What happened in the most recent election?
I mean, like a lot's going on. As we're recording this, we're one day out from the inauguration of President Trump. So this weekend we're seeing a lot of pictures and videos of the inaugural ball. We've got all the cabinet officials standing up there, giving speeches, world leaders coming in like Malaya from Argentina. I think cool, Georgia, actually. I think her name is, from Italy, the prime minister there. She's
also based.
as well. Yep.
Oh, okay.
A lot of big figures coming in. A lot of big things happening. I think that it's been quite interesting. We haven't had anything like this in recent times where we've had a president who was out for one term and then came back. I think that the last time that happened, it was only one time actually.
Was it Teddy Roosevelt?
It wasn't Teddy Roosevelt. I think it was...
it was in that time frame. That was like
late 1800s. There was one that we had just like that. So we've had nothing like that in
long
history.
Time.
It's been a long time. And,
Roosevelt ran again and he was defeated.
Yeah, the Bullmoose party. Yeah, he ran and was defeated.
Also love Teddy Roosevelt, by the way.
Was it the other Roosevelt that did it? That one.
Franklin.
Yeah,
no, he just stayed in forever. And they had to basically kick him out. They're like, you need to leave.
Yeah.
And then they had to, because I think up until that point, it was not a law for 2 terms max. It was like the unofficial kind of...
He kicked that off.
He's just like, what if I didn't leave? And they're like, actually, we want you to get out, please. If you could just get out.
2 terms was the rule after that. So
they made that
how good he was, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so usually you have like back-to-back terms, and so this time we have an incumbent who was gone for 4 years and then came back. So it'll be a really interesting dynamic. We'll have like the energy of president just getting started, but then also be in sort of a lame duck presidency because he can't run again. Yeah. But actually, they are in question because there is an official rule whether he could possibly run again, because supposedly that 2-term limit could have been consecutive. Yeah, so there's a possibility that he could run again. So that's actually sort of trending a bit in the prediction markets where it's like, will Trump have a third term? And I think it's at like 10 or 12%.
That would be
what is a sports bet? We'll get on that.
Dan's massive on. He's like, look at these prediction markets. Yeah.
It's a good prediction.
Yeah. So we're on the cusp of a lot of great things happening with the inauguration. So we'll see how things go.
Very, very cool. Lots of protests too, I imagine. Right. We've seen a fair few people getting upset again. I think there was a big protest in DC this morning, kicking off
against Trump.
Oh, you know how it is. That you can tell the average IQ. Not joking. I don't know. Okay, so truth in politics is probably like an antonym, really. Like it doesn't seem like politicians tell the truth. It doesn't seem like the political class is particularly interested in telling the citizenry the truth. What again, like Australia is sort of a watered down version of America, I think in a lot of ways. We're very culturally similar. A lot of our institutions similar, adjacent, just sort of less global, less sort of powerful generally.
Like that over time, I think more. But
I would say so. What do you think to you sticks out the most about the sort of political class or the ruling class? Or what's the distinction between that political class and then the common people, shall we delineate between?
Oh, so you're saying like in America or Australia?
Go in America. I think it's the same sort of thing in Australia. But obviously we're talking about America. But I think it's very culturally similar, even if it is just a watered down version in Australia. But
yeah, well, I mean, like you see that with like even going back to when Trump ran in 2016, like even for like preceding presidents before that, like with Obama in 2008, you could even make the argument that his campaign in 2008 was like pretty much like running against the establishment. Like he wanted to run against the establishment. He was something different. He wanted to bring back common sense to DC. And I mean, you can make a strong argument that he didn't. And then you can even make an argument as well in 2016 that Trump didn't, even if he might have attempted to do that, you could say, but he ran into a lot of stumbling blocks. He even talks about this openly now. I mean, Trump's very closed about like, it was great, it was perfect, everything was fine. But he talks about his first term in presidency and like he kind of puts the blame on other people, which he's good at doing. But still, he admits it. But he talks about his cabinet picks and how they weren't great. So when he came, I think what initially happened was when he was elected, he didn't expect it. His team didn't expect it. Nobody expected it.
So like that you're referring to?
Well, like even his own team. So like he wasn't expecting to get elected. I think going into that, like he was trending at about like a 30% or less chance to win against Hillary Clinton. And that's where I got my start with betting was back in 2016. And I was betting heavily for Hillary Clinton. Everybody was, because like the whole media arm, everybody was saying like all the polls had Hillary up 4 to 6%. Going into the 2016 election. So Trump's team wasn't ready. So like usually with your transition team for a president, you're getting your cabinet positions ready. You're talking to people, you're getting things set up months in advance. The election's in November, but you're getting that set up in June, July, August. He wasn't doing any of that in 2016. He wasn't prepared for it. And so he came in on this platform that was very anti-establishment, the establishment Republicans, the whole DC swamp he was going to get rid of, but he didn't have any he didn't know what he was doing. Like he didn't have connections. He wasn't expecting to win, and so he relied on people who were establishment to help him find positions that weren't establishment people, but they were establishment. So he had to fight through that for the first 2 years. Got to midterms. I think that Congress even flipped at that point. So it was very gridlocked at that point. So like he was just trudging through his whole presidency, and then you hit COVID, and he's dealing with that. So he really wasn't able to do everything that he wanted to do.
He did have a pretty high turnover of his sort of like secretary positions. I know Rex Tillman
is in a circle.
I believe
Rex Tillerson, he wasn't there for
Secretary
very long.
of State. He was not there very long. I had a lot of different people at very high level positions that came in and came out. And he does. I've heard him talk about it. I don't think I've ever heard him admit that he didn't think he was going to win, but I have heard him talk about not understanding the infrastructure of government and how sort of entrenched these agencies were, and the people that he's trying to staff them are like, we have our own kind of political ideology. Like, thanks for the advice. We're going to take it from here. We're the sort of the expert class, as it were.
Yeah, well, that idea that he didn't really expect to win, it goes back to
a big advertising campaign.
I forget the name of it, but they talk about how like on election night, if it's actually, if you want to get into this, like it's funny to watch like some of the YouTube videos of like the newscasters where they're like going through election night 2016, expecting Hillary to win, and the states start to go for Trump. It's just like this domino effect.
It wasn't like great, like the meltdown videos and stuff online are very funny.
So,
like
it was an interesting time. In hindsight, silly.
Remember we went to the like we went out
RE,
the RE and had the
the
big white shirt on with Trump 2016.
Yeah, you got harassed a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
You're early MAGA there. Okay.
Early MAGA, yeah. Well, I wasn't a big fan of the Hillary Clinton. I just didn't want to get drafted and die in a hole somewhere. So
you were memeing it a little bit though. I think you were rubbing it in just for fun.
I think so. I had text her on like a plain white shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a couple of fruitcake ladies that came up to me and were like, "Is this a joke?" I'm like,
you were really like, you're like, really?
I was enjoying it. Yeah,
that was early days too. Like it was hard to be
early
MAGA back
days.
then.
No.
Now it's like mainstream.
Mainstream.
But going back to that
Red
2016, like with that, like the newscasters were like broadcasting this. They were waiting for. So Florida was the key at that time. So Florida went to Hillary. It was like just absolutely impossible. It was pretty much over.
Yeah.
But like as the results were coming in, you could see that Florida was going to Trump, and they were like okay, we got to
Pennsylvania went to Trump, Michigan went to Trump.
Pennsylvania, all the Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, everything. Like it was just a wide sweep, and he
swept him again. This man's
and he did something similar this time as well in 2024.
What did they? I saw some political commentator say he's like, "This is my prediction for the election." What does it say? Kamala's going to go 4-0 on the. Was it the blue wall, the states? And then
Rust Belt or blue wall, you might call it.
Yeah. And then and she lost every single one of them, plus like everything.
Yeah.
She won like 5 cities, and that was about the campaign.
Yeah. Well, what's another funny video you can watch too is that they go through and they look at all the different counties throughout the whole United States to see if Kamala did better than Biden any county. And so they're like, all right, let's bring up that. So they toggle to that option. And there's not one county where she does better than Biden throughout the whole United States.
So her not doing better than Biden, what role do you think, and I'm not an American, and I follow American politics sort of vaguely, did the assassination attempt have on that? Because once that assassination attempt happened, a lot of the sort of chatter that I was hearing secondhand obviously was, the election's over now.
Oh, 100%. They reported that.
The popularity goes up, and
the odds on
the
sports bet went. He was like $1.20 or something.
Is that obviously those sort of things like Pearl Harbor, 9/11, that can really galvanize support behind.
Yeah, well, I mean, federal elections are like highly nuanced. It's hard to pinpoint on one exact thing. I think with that assassination attempt, the real-time polling did help Trump quite substantially. I think though that. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but if the attempt was 3 weeks out, that would have been his ideal. But it was too far out to really have a substantial effect. I think
there was 2 attempts though, wasn't there? They got a gunman at a golf course.
But the second one, he didn't have the videos. Well, the first one's more real because you can see it.
Well, did he shoot at the second one? I don't know if he got shot at.
The guy was at his golf course a guy. I think that I don't think he got to him directly, but there was an attempt.
There for like 8 hours, just sitting in a bush, and someone was like, "What's that gun doing in the bush?" It was something silly like that.
He's like, "I'm hunting alligator."
Yeah.
I got a permit.
But yeah, to go back, like I think that if it were a bit, because like the thing is like if we turn the tables here and say that it was Kamala that had the attempt against her, like the media would have been playing that nonstop. There'd be like a memorial service, there'd be like a
she's not dead
60
yet.
minutes.
Memorial
there'd
service.
Be like everything.
She's still
History
alive.
Channel would do like a whole like spiel on it, like everything. I think, but it, and that draws into like the role of the media in this election, which was. If we get into that too, that's quite different because the way that Kamala was playing the media campaign was very old school. It was the mainstream media, whereas Trump got into a whole different realm.
Rogan, baby.
Yeah, whole different strategy.
Whole different realm where he was getting into podcasts with Joe Rogan. He was on Theo Vaughn. He was really trying to kind of like get out there in different ways. TikTok, all sorts of things. Whereas Kamala was just very much of the mainstream.
She did do that podcast with the girl, that really popular.
The hot tail girl?
No. It was this other girl who just talks about.
I don't know who that is, but
neither do I. Never heard of her, but apparently she's very popular.
Yes.
And she doesn't do makeup, which I thought was the sort of exclusive niche that women have.
I think it was that one though where she came out. She said like,
"Call me daddy." That's what it was.
Okay, yeah.
And it was just it's like a podcast, as far as I know, basically just talking about being a slut is what as far as I can gather. Is the general consensus.
Definitely never seen it.
You're an avid subscriber.
I don't know right there. What's it called?
Call her daddy. It's terrible. Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that was the one where
it's kind of funny.
That girl came out later and she said that like she talked bad against the Kamala campaign because she's like, oh yeah, they restricted it to X amount of time, and we had to go over these specific points, and like they had to like follow all the rules, which is the points that Kamala tried to push on Joe Rogan, where she wanted him to come to her, and they limit it to like 30 minutes or an hour, and they had to go over specific things.
Yeah, is that right? He said something about that. He denied that one because of the restrictions. It was too much. So you have to come to Texas or whatever, wherever he's based.
Yeah, and he was very open to it because he's like, I'm going to give like opportunity to both sides. Like, so he gave Trump that opportunity. Trump came to him in Texas. He's Trump like, I'm going to give Kamala sort of a similar opportunity, and he was even kind of willing to like do a little bit, but he's like, no, that's a bit too much, because it was like under her rules, whereas Joe Rogan's very much like, you come to my studio, you come to Texas,
just come and have a chat. Like the most recent one with Joe Rogan was Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I saw the clips on that.
I love a good like Mark Zuckerberg coming in and just saying, all those conspiracy theories about the government telling us to do this, 100% true, 100%. And then he's like, and then I think it's kind of a bit annoying because he comes in, he's like, I'm gonna do free speech now. I'm like, that's not that brave, because the people like bully you have lost the election. Where was this like bravery 4 years ago? Like, now that Trump's won, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to do free speech.
But can you blame him? Like, that's the CEO move. Like, you got to go with.
He's a business guy.
Business is business.
I mean, Elon did it. He seems to be doing better than ever. So
Elon doubled down. He's willing to take those risks.
I just feel like
Elon's out there to do whatever the hell he wants. Really, I think he set the tone.
Yeah.
I don't know why we don't have more people. Like, if you have that kind of money, just do whatever you want. I love a good Elon Musk. Like, anyway, doesn't matter. The point is. Yeah. I thought it was a bit hypocritical, but I do like coming on and just kind of broing out with Joe Rogan, and I think that's the appeal of it. It's just talking candidly for a couple of hours, and I don't think it's overplayed to call politicians stupid or ignorant, but I don't think she could talk for 3 hours.
No.
And like when you listen to certain, and it's the same in Australia. Like there's certain politicians and then people, and this is on both sides, it's not a specifically left or right thing, it's just a lot of them are very, very shallow, very surface level.
We don't know who they are.
Sloganeering. And it's very superficial, and then you ask people like, that's actually relatively interesting, like why do you believe that? And they're just kind of like, because I stand with Palestine. You're like, what does that mean? Like I'm kind of like, I'm sympathetic in some ways, but I'm not with you in other ways. Like what's the, like, why do you believe that? And they're just like, because that was on the bumper sticker that I saw.
Well, are you willing to risk yourself looking silly? Are you willing to be super authentic? Like, for example, I think if you said Australia, the only person I can think would do it would be like Bob Catter.
Bobcat great.
Disregard you like him or not, he'd do a 3-hour thing because he's himself. He's not really representing.
He's not trying to play
his own
character. He just is who he is.
He's the North Queensland guy who hates crocodiles killing people once a month.
Which, by the way, I'm not a big fan of crocodiles at all.
No, I know.
They're just terrifying. They are evil. It's the reptilian thing. I'm telling you right now, reptiles are evil. And just look into the eye of a reptile. They're like those vertical slits. They're like yellow.
They're cold.
They're born. And they're just evil killing machines. Like a lion, it's a mammal. You kind of raise it. You can live with a baby lion.
People pet lions.
They kill you. You can't have a pet crocodile. It'll just eat you when it gets big enough. And that's the same for everything. Someone's got a pet snake. I'm like, why? Kind of psychopath.
It's cool looking, but go for it.
Put it in a box, throw it into a river, and never talk about it again. Reptile's bad. Mammal's good.
Reptilian brain. It's a cold part. They're not really like someone who wants to cuddle up to. I mean, you don't want to crocodile on your
they're
bed.
born that way, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even saying necessarily like they're evil. It's kind of a bit hyperbolic. But the point is, like, they are born and they're set in a way. Like a lion, you can raise a lion and a hyena together and they'll be best mates. Like you raise them from pups, right? Because they're like, I don't know to hate you. But if you, like, a lion is raised in the wild, it's like, I hate hyenas because they're stealing our food and they're coming up. And it's like, they're learning behaviors as opposed to a crocodile hatches from an egg and is immediately like, I'm going to kill some frogs.
Eating your finger.
Yeah,
because
it's just nuts.
Yeah.
So I don't like reptiles. Or Democrats. No,
and they're the same.
Same thing, right?
Well, I was going to say, it's interesting we thought with what affected the election. We're talking about like the media and stuff. What other factors do you reckon, like, you said it's really nuanced. It's almost impossible to 100% say it's anything. It's everything put together. But what do you think about, like, specifically Kamala? I mean, do you think it's more like a race thing? Do you think it's her herself being super unlikable?
I think she is the least unlikable.
We're pretty much saying that if she did worse than Biden on every count, it's possibly her more than it is
race.
It's her and her specific policies, possibly.
It's
then.
like, is it her? Is it you? Me? Like who is it? Is it
Yeah.
Trump? Like people liking Trump or people just hating Kamala? Like
That's
which
right.
came
It's the
first,
big
kind of?
argument. Did she lose it or did he win it?
Yeah, well, I think
It's a
if
bit like Hillary.
if you take a step back even and you look at the fact that like Kamala Harris, like she wasn't nominated in the normal way.
She has won exactly 0 delegates.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so she didn't go through the whole primary process, so she was very undemocratically elected because it was the switch out. So you had Biden, who was, you know, the incumbent, he was going to run again, and then
They
there were
only
rumblings.
switched him because of how bad he was on the debate with Trump. Yeah, was that?
That was the key
I mean,
point.
Because
And
I
the
think people started to realize this guy might be a venal houseplant. I'm not sure. I'm not sure this guy's
that's right.
alive or sentient
Yeah.
at
Good
all.
comment.
That was like,
Like
the
funny.
Yeah, that was the pivotal point, was the debate against Trump, because he was quite abysmal in it, but was sort of expected anyways. But was interesting about that, if you want to go down the conspiracy hole with that, is that it was right after that debate where the media before that had been like, oh, Trump, Biden is, he's fine, like everything's
Sharper
great,
than
we
ever.
love Biden, look at all these policies he's put forward. But then it was right after that debate that all the mainstream media, the liberal ones that had defended him before, came out hard against him with some of the same talking points.
Yeah, they really like murdered him in about like one
right
day.
after the
They just
debate.
stabbed him
Really,
right
really
in the back.
brutal. Yeah.
Right after the debate. So the conspiracy is that like they were all kind of ready for that. And like
Right.
what was interesting as well about that debate is that the fact that they took that debate, it was so early in sort of the debate cycle where like usually you'd have a presidential debate of that nature in like September, October. I think that one was quite a bit earlier. I think that was
June,
because
July?
yeah, that was like
Yes,
June or July.
yeah.
So the fact that they took that
Oh,
debate and it was so early almost makes you think, under this conspiracy hole, is that they were trying to get him to fail
So they could
so that they
replace
could
him.
do the switch out.
Oh, okay, that definitely
I
makes
thought a lot of the
sense.
good candidates were basically saying there's not enough time for us to run a proper campaign.
Oh, there was a lot of people
So
who
that-
didn't want to
well,
put
yeah,
their
a lot of
hand
people
up
that were
because
like,
it's-
I don't want
yeah.
to do it. Like, why would I want to waste my one shot when I have like 3.5 months to do it?
Yeah, for sure.
So then Kamala, who again never won a single delegate, was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the
Because was she
DNC...
like the least likable VP candidate ever? Like, I get
No, I'm
producer
sure there's
Brendos.
another one.
No, I think Dick Cheney's approval rating was higher than hers. At the
Really?
end. It's
her
insane.
approval
After he
rating was
shot
like it was in the
someone for some
20s during the presidency. It was in the 20s,
Which is not
yeah,
good.
it was
It's
pretty
hard
rough.
to be that
Right.
unlikable amongst Democrats that tend to be, or the way I look at it anyway, like
Interesting.
the left wing
Okay.
stuff tends to be more consolidated and they kind of vote in like more stable blocks. Do you know what I mean? Like they just galvanize around whoever the candidate is.
Yeah, for sure.
I do feel like there's more like infighting amongst people on the right. You know, you're not.
Oh, do you think?
It's like the no true Scotsman thing, where like you're not as libertarian as me, or
Right,
you're
yeah,
not
it's
as
definitely
conservative, or
different
you're not.
factions within.
Do you know what I mean? But on the left, and again, I'm not a lefty, so I don't. Maybe there is massive, but they seem to be much more readily able to quickly galvanize behind anyone. Like if it was reversed and you threw out, say, Mitt Romney to
Right.
represent the Republicans, I don't think Mitt Romney's winning 6 states. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just an unlikable milquetoast old man who's average.
I think he probably would have done a lot better if you took him at that same age now and popped him in.
Because he couldn't. I mean, listen.
You know what I mean? Like he's like the well, maybe not, but go on.
I don't know. He lost in 2012, and that
Yeah.
was a lot of play about Obama being
Right.
pretty bad. History kind of bears it out. But like pretty bad. And then they look back and like, this is the only person who could have lost to you, and he happened to win and run. Unlike the most, because he was he
Right.
soft on all the
Yeah.
issues that people. I think the
People
big
on
one
the
was
right.
Obamacare was pretty bad,
Yeah.
and it is pretty bad.
Yeah, Mitt Romney had like
but
the
he
reputation.
refused to. Like he just very milquetoast.
He had the reputation then of like being a flip-flopper. I think that was the big thing in
Yeah, okay.
2011, 2012 was that because, and part of the reason for that was, well, two, I guess you could say, was one was he was a Democrat before, and he was the governor of Massachusetts, which is one of the most liberal states. And so
Okay.
I
you
do
have
like
to be,
Massachusetts, though, just for the
you
basketball.
had to be a bit, kind of tread the line a little bit there. And then as well, like Mitt Romney is sort of the characteristic establishment character. Like he's just,
go where
he
the
just
wind
goes
blows.
with
He
the-
actually
the
is very
flow of
similar to
things.
Kamala Harris. Would you like? He's kind of like the Republican Kamala Harris
I think it's
Oh, really?
in
Okay.
some ways.
in a way. Like he like what opinions? Like if you asked Mitt Romney like what is your stance on this, he'd be like, what's safe to say?
Oh,
like,
he's a bit.
do you know what I mean? Like he'll
too-
flip flop
okay.
on anything.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
he's just like what can I do to be like the safest, most
Least
appealing
offensive.
person?
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel like a lot of the Kamala stuff was just trying to be like inoffensive and Oh, I'm just, just a hardworking lady who got my start by sleeping with a married man in San Francisco.
I'm sure that was
That's true. You can look that up. That's not even I'm not even exaggerating because I don't like her. That's actually true.
Okay.
What was his name? Like Willie Brown.
Oh, Willie Brown.
Willie
yeah,
Brown.
yeah,
Brendan
yeah.
can check this out. Willie Brown slept with her. Willie Brown.
Okay.
He was
What
the
name
mayor
is
of
that?
San Francisco,
Right.
and Kamala got her start by sleeping with him. He also was, I don't want to say cool, but he was sleeping with a lot of women.
If you wanted to pick a standard politician who was potentially sleeping with a lot of women, I think Willie Brown's a pretty good name. I don't think you can really pick a
So it's Willie Brown or it's Slick Willie, aka Bill Clinton. And
Yeah, right,
It's
gotcha.
just always the Willies. They come
Yeah,
out, they get you.
It's got connotations.
Coming
Yeah.
after you. Yeah.
But I think that playbook is pretty characteristic
Tired.
of most politicians. Is like you just kind of go with the wind. That's the playbook
Yeah.
for the last, especially the last. Like,
Do you
20
think
years
that's
of
changed
politics.
though a little bit? Do you think people
Definitely.
are yearning for
Yes.
authenticity? Like there's a
Yeah.
real
Yes.
hunger. Like just tell us like it is. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear this
Yeah.
nonsense.
On both sides, though.
Yeah,
Really,
no,
everybody
100%.
wants
I think
that.
everyone's like, dude, just be
Yeah.
like, what do you actually stand for?
Yeah, we have so much information.
I
and
just
there's-
wanna know
we're doing
what's
so
going
much
on,
stuff.
yeah.
We're oversaturated. Like, why? I don't want to listen to you waffle about a bunch of nothing that we don't care
Oh,
about.
how good is
Yeah.
it, the politician waffle, where they're
That's
just
horrible.
talking
I hate
and
it.
nothing happens? It's been 10 minutes. You're like, what is this, Alex
It's
Jones?
just a
How are you able to
condescending,
talk
Yeah.
this long?
passive-aggressive
Yeah.
waffle.
So you
Anyway.
would understand, peasant. I'm like, all right, what?
So
Hang
what
on.
do you think about immigration? Well, I really like the money situation that we've got going. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Housing is essential for humans. What? Dude.
Like
Yeah.
information is so streamlined and so like out there now compared to what it was like 20 years ago. So if you look at like some of the debates of like, I don't know, like 2004, like I think it was John Kerry
And George Bush.
Oh, yeah.
John Kerry also,
And-
he's like a Mitt Romney of the Democrats, I think.
I can only picture Mitt Romney's
John
face, so I'm trying to think of
Kerry.
John Kerry.
John Kerry's like an old wetted shoe.
Yeah,
at this point.
right.
Yeah, his nickname was the Tree because he was just very much. I think he had like Botox at the time too, so he was just like this
Oh,
one
one of the first-
one expression kind of thing.
Botox was brand new. He's got that first
This
round.
is great. I think I've got 3 cancers in my eyeballs. Thanks so much.
barely
See,
blink,
Joe
but-
Biden's had so much work done where he can't really move his face.
I thought that was just
Like,
because
dude,
he
you're
can't
like
move his
80
face.
something years old. Just
Right.
why don't you look 80? Why do you look like a weird hair transplant? Like face is like sucked back. I'm like, this is.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it
got
better
the-
just to age with some dignity? Like it's okay to be old. I don't understand why.
Well, they got the skin rolls in those pictures, and they're like, "Is that a mask?" You know, it looks kind of
I've seen that. Yes. It's good
like
for
it's
it.
nuts. All the celebrities with the kind of scars behind the ear, where they kind of tuck the.
Oh, well, that
Yes,
definitely
yeah.
is like a small facelift type of thing.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
for
Bungee,
sure.
bungee cord faces.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just weird,
like so the
man.
2004 debate.
Just
If
be
you watch some of
old.
those older debates, like that one, it's very milquetoast. Like it's non-controversial. Everything is just very like even keel.
No one's calling you a.
The
fat
one who
dog
really,
or something.
the one who really changed that, where like those debates really changed, was with Trump in the Republican primaries, where he's going up against guys like Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio. If you want some entertainment, go back and watch some of those
Oh,
debates.
it's so entertaining.
Chris
it's-
Christie,
yeah,
like
it's
the back and
Chris
forth
Christie,
is
you're
just,
fat, you're
yeah.
ugly. Get
they're
out
like
of
making
here.
fun of their hand sizes and implying something else. Like it's
Yeah.
just like he totally broke that barrier. It just changed the whole game.
He is extremely funny. Like that, it doesn't matter if you like or dislike Donald Trump. It's undeniable that he is an entertainer and like a truly comfortable, funny
Yeah.
person. Like he's entertaining. Even if you despise
If
him,
you
like,
hate
he's
him,
a very,
it's
very
fine.
funny
If you
person.
dislike him, that's sort of fun. I think it was might have been Joe Rogan. He says he's a comedian.
He's very
effectively
funny. He's got
taking the
great
piss.
timing. He just
Yep.
he can say.
And when you
whatever
look
he
at
wants.
it with that veil,
Yeah, it's
it kind
very
of makes a
funny.
lot more sense. He's saying a
He
lot
does
of
say
garbage.
things. Like
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's the
Like,
art of the deal. Like
Yeah.
he's like saying extreme things, getting like attention, like getting people's like fantasies going, like about like the whole like buying Greenland and the Panama Canal, like that sort of thing.
He's
Like
like, will you rule out using military force? No.
yeah,
Yes.
sound bites,
Yeah.
entertainment,
It's a
it's just like
meme.
fulfilling people's fantasies.
Yeah,
Like
what are you gonna do
Greenland,
about it,
let's conquer
Denmark?
that, you know?
Yeah.
Saw a great meme the other day. Slightly off topic. The UK was threatening to arrest Americans
Okay.
for posting things on Facebook that were offensive to the regime in the UK.
Regime.
Well, that's what you call it. Like they're
Fair enough.
a
Yeah,
communist
the
state.
Right.
If you're arresting people for posting memes, I think maybe you're just a scumbag. But anyway, they like saying that like we're gonna arrest Americans, and then there's this meme. It's like, do it, I dare you. And maybe we can't arrest any Americans because like it's America, so maybe we shouldn't do that.
Yeah, maybe we should.
It's
Yeah,
just,
we'll
yeah,
see if you
maybe,
come over here one day.
they might come over here and kick our teeth in. Maybe we should just be a bit
Number
more
one, Alex
chill.
Jones. We'll arrest that guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure they could do it, or it would be worth anything to do. Yeah, it was
Seems
quite
like a
funny.
waste
Just
of
go-
paperwork for me. but,
Just an
yeah.
extremely funny thing to say. Like we're going to arrest the citizens of the most powerful country that we kind of depend on.
Imagine we said that. That's
I'd just be a
ridiculous.
laugh. Yeah. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
What question I have for you is, I think when I was a kid in school many moons ago, we were taught politics was fairly binary, and it was like a left wing is over here and right wing's over here. Very simplistic, but I one of the things we kind of touched on it briefly, but there does seem to be like an establishment versus like the anti-establishment, and you can see whenever you see like 10 to 20 newspaper headlines and CNN and all these different news channels, and they all say the same thing. I'm like, it's pretty obvious to me at least that they're all kind of running off the same sheet. They have their talking points. These are the message that we want to put out. It's not as much about news as it seems to be about persuading opinions and protecting that ruling class that we sort of mentioned. Like, is there a entrenched ruling class? Is that what the swamp is? And what is their interest, and why is it, I don't know, why is it bad? I would say, like, well, why do people want to? I mean, I would say, why is it bad?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a very like entrenched establishment in the States, and it's a capitalistic society. A lot of it draws back to money, and so if you look at how lobbyists are sort of run in the States, so to give you an example, like somebody could be
APAC or something.
I think they're one of them. They're one of them, APAC.
APAC.
And so like you could be working in government. This is actually one rule that they have talked about. I think it came up in Pete Hegseth's recent one of his preliminary hearings in front of Congress was about how generals shouldn't be able to become lobbyists or work for different military firms within 10 years after leaving the U.S. government, because what you see there's a lot of intermingling where there's a lot of corruption going on, where like and there's so many memes on this online that you can see where it's like people leave the Department of HHS, Health and Human Services, from the States, and then they go and work for Pfizer, or they go and work for Moderna, or all these different companies. They just jump back and forth, and they're finding like a lot of the rules and things like are set up to really benefit some of the big companies, these big established companies that have like a monopoly, whether it's pharmaceuticals or in the military or different areas. And so I think that there's a lot of money that keeps it sort of as is. I think that a lot of those people that are in that sort of oligarchy or establishment, like, they don't want change. Like, they don't want to give power back to the people, because that means that they're losing their power, their wealth, their influence. I think it can be boiled down to that. Basically, it's quite simple, actually.
I can see that. Well, there's a bit like that sort of. I guess Australia kind of like we follow the US in some respects. I noticed that, like, I feel like when I was younger, that didn't seem to occur. But a lot of politicians, even at the state level in Australia, they'll finish, and then all of a sudden they get like a $5 million a year job at some random company.
See the New South Wales Premier recently.
Really have that skill set. Why are they on the board of something? Yeah.
Like, well, we helped you out. Yeah, I think
we're advising for government things, I suppose. Yes, but
it's the Premier of New South Wales, and she was like ousted for doing something bad. No, it was the lady before him.
Okay, yeah.
And then she's like, I'm at the board of a bank making like $10 million.
And it's a lot.
And you're like,
for really,
I don't think. What do you?
Will you ever have anything to do?
Have you ever worked in banking before? She's like, no, but I'm on the board.
Which I can then go to the meetings with my ex-colleagues and say, hey,
and then go, hey, what do you reckon? Help us out. And then who knows how many like earmarks and stuff has been pushed through. Like, hey, we'll give you a job, but you need to get us. It's a kind of
the backdoor dealings. Like, actually, with Nikki Haley was the perfect example of this in the presidential election. Yeah. So, and I think that with these recent election cycles, she's the one that she was the governor of South Carolina. She ran for president.
Oh, she was the one that had that clowned on for saying that there's going to be a woman president. It's going to be me, or it's going to be Hillary, and then Donald Trump won. I
think that was it. There were some funny memes that went back and forth with that. But what's interesting is I think that now, especially since like information is so much more available, like you look at social media, even like X, formerly Twitter, like with to give another example, to look at the recent omnibus bill that they try to push through, the reconciliation bill that they try to push through Congress, and how it had all these earmarks and it's a pork barrel bill and all this unnecessary spending. And Elon Musk just went on Twitter and he's like, they want to give money to this and that. This is a bad idea. And it just flew through Twitter. Like, everybody was talking about it within a couple hours.
Okay.
And so with that, I think with social media playing a big role with that and other ways, information is so much more accessible and moves so much quicker. And to give the example, going back to Nikki Haley, so she was governor of South Carolina She left and she was absolutely broke. She had no money, but then she ends up on the board of a.
Is it Raytheon?
Have to be fact check this, but it's like it
Raytheon?
might have been that. Yeah, it was like a military contracting company, I think. But she was on some board and she made just like a ton of money. And it seemed
I have
absolutely,
millions of dollars. You're like,
and there was a bit of back and forth where like I think they got a good deal in the state as well. Like we'll have to look into that. But there was a lot of back and forth that was going on there. And this was brought up by Donald Trump, and I think even Vivek rode with that because Vivek was sort of like his
cool.
Robin
I
to
do
Trump's
like,
Batman,
yeah,
even while he was
I do
running
like
against him.
Yeah.
But like it really like
he was always kind of like, I felt like he was always like running against him. But he was kind of like, I'm just running defense. Like,
yeah.
He was only saying good things about
He was
it,
basically
really.
like, Ronan is my arch rival,
Yeah.
my best friend. I love you so much.
Yeah.
Like, is he,
well, there's only a couple reasons you're
but
for
you
president.
suck. Like,
There's only a couple reasons you're for president. You run for president to get the presidency,
Or to make
to
friends.
get the VP pick, or to write a book deal. And I think Vivek was going for the VP pick. He got
he got
part of
some
Doge, so
which I'm
that's all right.
super keen
Is he?
for.
Is he in there? I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know if he
him
follows
and
him.
Elon
Oh.
are going to go through apparently and just start cutting a bunch of government agencies. And
What's
I would
Elon's title?
start
It's like government spending.
Department
something
of Government Efficiency.
Department of
Right, yeah, okay.
Doge.
Yeah.
Doge,
Name
yeah.
of their
I just think
Doge.
if you can get rid of
Okay.
all the government agencies, very, very good. Like, get rid of them all. Of them. You don't need a government of education, department of this. It's all crap.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he might do that. No, I don't know.
I think he's said that he wants to get rid of the Department of Education. Since it was
They've
founded
talked
in
about it.
71, I think America was number one in the world. Brandos, I need to check this again. I think prior to the creation of the Department of Education, America was number one in the world in education.
education.
And now they're like 60.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can't get rid of it because what would we do about education? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it'd go back to being good. Who knows?
I have no idea.
Why do we
that one.
need the government? Like, what? Yeah, I'm not saying in every situation causation is correlation, but I'm just saying, like, if one thing happened and then it went precipitously worse every year for the next 5 decades, maybe this thing is not very good. That's what I would say.
Interesting.
A madman. I know what you're
Well,
thinking.
I
That's
think
just crazy.
with that stuff though, like I think a lot of the rest of the world kind of looks at the US and thinks that there's a lot of money getting flown around, like, and it's capitalistic. Even the sort of like spending on the campaigns, too, like a lot of different countries is like
sure.
extreme. Like
$1
it
billion
seems-
for Kamala's
Okay.
campaign.
Yes, like it
Yep.
seems like a lot. I mean, there's a lot of money in the US compared to some other countries, which is always going to be
It's a lot of
more.
money. I think the
But-
US is borderline more than every other country.
It
like
probably
GDP
is.
is,
I
like,
mean, I don't
including China. Like, I think it's more because you think I
I don't think it's 50%, but
no,
yeah.
I think because China's like, what is China? 14, 15 trillion
I don't
GDP.
know.
America's like 27. And then
Yeah.
the next person after China is Japan and Germany, or Germany, Japan, and they're like
Keep switching.
3-4 trillion. And after that, it's like a bunch of European nations are like, we got $1 trillion. You're like,
Yeah.
that's nothing.
I
That's
think we're 12
nothing.
and we got about 1.7 trillion.
I think how they calculate it too is like there's different
nuts.
ways to calculate the GDP, and if they do it on American dollars, like America's way ahead. But if like there's
Yes,
different
it's-
ways that they can, there's different kind of
Yeah.
types that
There's
they calculate.
per-
Whereas China's a bit better in certain ones, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, the parity versus the not. I remember it's like different. Yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
China
very
was
different.
going through a recession right now. Some
Well, I
talk
don't
about
think
them
I
just
think
having some
we do. I don't
issues.
think we really know. I think a lot of these countries like secretly doing quite bad, but they're reporting semi.
Well, that's the
okay
problem with like
things.
the Chinese. Like, we're doing great. I'm like, aren't you in a recession? They're like,
Well,
Yes.
someone was saying the other day like UK is like borderline doing terrible, but it's hard
I
because
don't know
the numbers
why.
are kind
The
of propped
UK's
up.
run really well.
Yeah, but
Come
it's,
and get
you
me.
can-
Piece of shit.
Yeah, so
What a fucking
going back to that,
reason.
like, what do you other sort of like factors do you think sort of? So I was going to say actually because we're talking about that. Going to that way, it seems like the whole world throughout all these different elections, even in like the UK, whatever, just kind of voted out whoever was in because everyone's kind of
That's
really
typically how it
annoyed at
works,
the
though.
moment.
It's like the swing, the pendulum.
Yeah,
thing, where it's
right
like,
now the whole
do
world
you guys
wants to
even
change
like
everybody.
these policies? But yeah,
Yeah.
everyone wants change. This is what
Cost
we
of
were.
living, everyone's like, no way. get
Didn't we bring
out.
this up like one of the earlier podcasts? Where we're like, everybody is upset with the direction
Yeah,
we're
so you
going.
said that. It's a good quote
But
yourself.
yeah, there you go, thanks.
Everyone's upset with where we're going, but we are still going there.
But,
so
but
yeah.
like, everyone says that where we're going, but like no one wants to change
That's
direction.
correct,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even with like so like when a president's
Self-quote.
when a president's elected, they're elected for a 4-year term, and so after 2 years, there's the election of a third of the
Midterms,
Senate
Congress.
and the House of Representatives. And usually, what you happen is that you have like a reciprocal like backlash against the president. You know, you can characterize it however you want. Maybe it's like people were a bit
Checks and balances.
discontented about like they didn't get exactly what they were expecting with the president they just elected, and so usually it kind of sways to the other party during that time. I think especially too within the last 15 or 20 years, people have had this discontent where like they really want to see actual change. I think that when times are good and people don't get their way, they're like, oh, well, everything's fine. I can still pay my bills. I can still buy groceries. But when they can't pay the rent and like things are actually like hurting, people like are discontented and they want actual change. So you're not seeing, like, you don't see that sort of like incumbent stranglehold that you used to have in the past, where if somebody gets elected to office, they're in as long as they
There
can.
are
they'll be
a
there
lot
for
of,
2
like,
terms.
a lot
Yeah.
of congressmen and senators that are basically dying in office from old age.
No, they,
Mitch McConnell. I mean,
Mitch
did you see
McConnell
him?
just
Like,
stands there like shit his pants like, on TV.
What's
like,
the average
just couldn't
age of these
move.
people? Do you reckon 80?
oh, it's
Yeah.
huge.
They're
If you look
pretty
at
It's like
old.
there was a report the other day. I'm not even exaggerating. It's a report. I think it was Elon brought it to attention. He's like, there's a sitting congresswoman, and they're like, where is she? We haven't seen her in like 6 months. She's in an old person home. She's like, she's
yeah.
put in an old
Oh,
person home.
okay. She's out of action.
Yeah, but like she's still elected. But she's like,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
so
probably not ideal.
incapacitated mentally that one of my aides is running the show. Dianne Feinstein from
She was like
San Francisco.
88 and she died in
had
office.
no
Yeah.
idea what was going on. There's
Yeah,
a,
okay.
like a
There
bill
definitely has to be a check
where she
on that.
goes in and she's like, "What do I do?" And the aide's like, "You need to vote."
grab her
here, here,
hand.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
actually running the
Something
show
that
here?
needs to be checked on. That's no good.
It's
I can't
crazy.
see that.
I
happening.
think there was another fun stat in America where it's like everybody in America hates Congress,
Right.
like universally, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, everyone hates Congress,
Yeah.
but everyone loves their congressman. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
fair
a
enough.
weird thing where it's
He
like
represents me.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, Congress is crap, but we got Ted Cruz, so we
Yes.
love Ted. I'm like, what? No, like they're all the same. Like they're
Okay.
all bad, but everyone is like, no, we got Dianne Feinstein, we're killing it.
Is that a bit like us though? I don't think everyone likes question time, and other people like Parliament. They think everyone there's arguing, wasting time, but then they go, "Oh, I love Joe Blow."
Yeah, but you're like,
He's for
oh,
me.
but my constituent person is great. You're like, I don't.
Maybe it's the system they don't like. I don't know.
I'm telling you, first thought coming up.
Okay.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Very, very interested with old people in politics. Let go.
Well, I mean, look at the founders of the United States. Like
In
they
their
were all in
30s,
like their teens,
40s?
their 20s. Wasn't it like I think Thomas Jefferson was like in his 30s.
Alexander
He was like the
Hamilton
old
was the
fogey.
youngest.
He was like the old one of the crew because he was like in his.
Oh, really?
I think George
Actually.
Washington was older than him. I think George Washington, Jefferson, John Adams, they were a bit older. But like Alexander Hamilton was very young on the $10
Yep.
note, by the way.
So that mean most of the paintings I
Respect.
see are done when they're a little bit older, or
Oh, no,
is
he's
it like they look like that age of back in the day because it's hard living?
No, he is.
Is that like okay?
Yeah, it could have been hard living. I don't
Could have been the fact that they fought a war. I
Yeah,
don't know.
fair.
Did
That's
you fight
true.
a war recently?
Not recently. No.
Unbelievable. No, but yeah, I don't know. I
That
think
is the case though. Right now, like, even historically, like most figures quite young on a whole.
they did stuff
yeah.
when they were young.
Yeah,
and, like,
the average
virile.
age of
And then when they get
success.
older, they're like, I'm going to go back to the farm and
You
have a
tell
good time.
Your Roman Greek friend. that you
I
talk
do
about,
love
yeah.
Dionysus or Cincinnatus. Like, come in, help us, Cincinnatus. We need you. He's like, no, the cabbage
The
calls
cabbage
to me.
calls
Yeah,
me.
it's a real
Yeah.
quote. It's fantastic. And also, I think Cincinnatus was the person George Washington referred to when he said, I'm not taking the crown of America. I refuse to become the monarch.
Right.
I think maybe the fact that he couldn't have kids might have been another reason. But like, I'm gonna give him the best benefit of the doubt and say that he's just an absolute legend, and he's decided that, you know what, actually, no one, like, power should not be concentrated in one person, and there should be a more meritocracy based system. Also, George Washington super duper against like political parties. Thought they were a terrible idea. Destroyed
Is that the case?
Yeah, super against it. I mean, you think about it, like, why should you vote for, like, did anyone vote for our current Prime Minister or the previous Prime Minister or the one before that? Like, no one's
it's a
voting for
party
that
thing.
person. You're just like, I want to vote for my team because they have the blue tie on, you vote for your team. Like, does anyone even know what this person stands for? Not really. But, like, it just, you can just kind of, I don't know, people can hide behind, like, oh, I'm a LNP or I'm an ALP.
A bit of tribalism
Yeah,
stuff
like,
going
what is
on.
going on here? Just what do you believe in, though? I believe in whatever
believe
they
in-
tell me to
believe in
believe
those
in.
colours.
Yeah,
It does make voting
Blue.
in like Republic a bit easier though, because they don't have to research every single candidate.
I'm
what they
sorry,
believe.
Dan, but I think
Yes.
voting is like an important civil duty, and maybe people should know what they're voting for.
But
That's
they
a
don't.
weird. Come on.
I mean,
But
they
that's what
don't.
I'm
They
saying,
don't,
though.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is maybe we shouldn't trivialize voting or say, well, it's actually really hard to know what you're voting for. So maybe not everyone should do it. Maybe people that are informed and know what they're talking about and understand the ramifications should be voting, and then maybe we'd get better candidates that wouldn't just stand up there and be like, I don't know how to talk anymore because my teleprompter went shut off. Which is true also. You
Yeah.
can look at that.
We already do a bit of that, actually. So, I mean, it's not unheard of in modern times. So, like, I think inmates, like, who have committed a federal crime, like, they can't vote. So, it's just, I mean, you know, you go in the past and it's like when America was first founded, you had to be male, you had to own land
It's a good system.
to vote.
get
So,
that right.
I mean, whether you give like the sovereignty to the people,
what?
whether they, you know, can or can't vote, like that's a whole other can of worms, I guess.
I think that's coming up in First Thought.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I
okay,
think that's
okay.
going to
Fair
come up
enough.
in First Thought.
Spicy.
It's going to be good. I mean, I think political systems, which systems we should go for, what's the ideal, I think would be fascinating to talk about. What's next for politics, Dan? We'll wrap up this section with the sort of modern American political landscape. What's coming down the pipeline
It's coming
from your
this
point
week.
of view? Well, the inauguration, obviously, tomorrow,
Yes.
yeah.
which is very exciting.
So I think yeah,
At the day of recording.
Yeah.
the key thing to watch out for is
What should we be investing in? Bitcoin's going to $1 million, I heard.
Yeah, is there a
so
Trump
we
coin?
should be doing that.
I'm very
I've got some money to bet.
I'm very bearish on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but
Okay.
I think that like the key to look out for is like
Trump coin.
will Trump do everything that he says he wants to do? So like in his first term, like he was
Did not
in
do
gridlock,
that
he wasn't
much,
able
yeah.
to do things. So like what will he do with this one? Will Doge have any actual effect? I think it's a big thing as well. So you've got Elon and you've got Vivek in there. Will they actually make any like substantial change to like get rid of departments like they've talked about?
Do you think him being a lame duck improves the chances of that happening? Because he's got nothing to lose.
Yes, yes.
That's what I was thinking. Like, he's got nothing to lose. He knows how much these people despise him. Burn it all down. Like, what are you? You're not
And
running
he's also
again.
being pushed through that
You
trial,
can-
and he's
you
probably a
can,
bit
yeah.
bitter in some
Yep.
regards.
Definitely just go.
He got
you
shot.
guys are-
Like I think after that too, I think that
shot.
changed him a bit too. Where he's like,
changed me.
I'm here because God wants me here, and he's like, I think it gave him a bit of like oomph where he's just like, I can just do what I want to do. So I think you're right. Like him having like a lame duck presidency, the presidents and lame duck can do whatever they want because they don't have to worry about getting reelected unless he runs for a third term, which is up for debate.
I kind of
And
like
then-
JD Vance, to be honest. I'm like, we've got a couple of good bench people. You know, throw in JD
I don't really
Vance.
know too much
I
about
like
him.
him.
I think
He's
they're
just a
sort of like
Catholic guy, that's
outside.
basically
Yeah.
But he seems
So
cool.
is
Yeah.
lame duck
Very
is that
funny.
like you can't run
You
again?
can't run
Is that the
again. Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because JD Vance is he's pretty based, dude. And he got up the other day. He said something funny about he's really worried about Islamic nations getting nuclear
Right.
bombs, and then he's like, but they already have them. UK. So I was like,
Oh,
that's
did
pretty
he?
funny.
Okay.
That was quite funny. I thought it was very, very funny.
Yeah, he's a bit based. We'll see what happens in 2028. But as well with Trump, like he's a lame duck, you're right, but I think he has the energy too of a first-term presidency. So he's got two things going for him. Whereas, like, if you were like a natural lame duck, you'd have your second term consecutive. A lot of the times, those presidents are just kind of like
Tired.
locked in,
Beleaguered.
they're tired, beleaguered.
You like
Yeah,
that
but
word?
Trump
Okay.
sort of
I
has
do.
this.
I do.
Trump has this new energy, this new cabinet. He's got all these great people behind him. So we'll see.
That's a
what he
great
does.
team. I am very impressed with the team, to be honest with you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Except
they-
Marco Rubio. I could take him or leave him, really, to be honest.
Well, with Marco Rubio, I think that's
Don't really
interesting
care
because Marco Rubio is a bit of more of a neocon. He's a bit more of a war hawk, but I think that's going to work in
So
Trump's favor
don't
because
like that.
Trump is a bit more of not an isolationist, but he's talking about like NATO, how he wants to pull out of that or kind of get away from some of these things where
Definitely.
America's getting a bad deal or being so involved. Whereas Marco Rubio is kind of on the opposite end. He's
Marco
actually
Rubio
closer
has
to Hillary.
never seen a war he doesn't like. He's like, what's going on over there in Ukraine? We should get some boots on the ground.
He's closer to Hillary Clinton when it
Guatemala
comes to
talking smack. We should go and invade them too.
Yeah.
This guy's out of control.
He's
That
closer to
sounds
Hillary
bad.
Clinton as far as like war hawkishness than you'd say Trump or any of those other
I
players.
like the Donald Trump foreign policy idea of like, it's not our job to just be everywhere around the world bombing. Like these aren't it's not our responsibility. Our sons don't need to be dying in fields
Yeah.
3,000 miles away because of some vague, like, well, you know, these people are the enemy. Like, are they? Do they care about what?
I think
people in
that policy
Missouri
will
are
be
doing?
pushed, but having a Marco Rubio out there who is a war hawk going into these places,
You think
just
it balances it
tearing
out?
up the room like we're going to come in here and we're going to invade. Like he's very pro-war. So him coming in there as Secretary of State creates this sort of like good cop, bad cop situation where
So Trump's the good cop?
Trump's the good cop.
That is rare.
Trump's the good cop where he gets the final call, but he's putting Marco Rubio out
Hawkish
there.
people in place.
And this makes sense too because you look at what Trump said about John Bolton. So if you know
John Bolton's a maniac.
John
that guy
Bolton
is
is
original guy
actually a
had the-
maniac.
he was
Oh,
He
the old
was
guy,
the
the
UN
mustache.
ambassador. Yeah, that
Yeah,
guy
yeah,
wants to
gotcha.
fight
Mustache.
like me. You'd be like, that guy there, kill him, bomb him.
Right.
Yeah,
destroy
yeah,
him.
but he
He's
put
a
the
madman.
fear of God into foreign leaders because he would come into these meetings and they're like, this guy's a fireball. We don't know what he's gonna do, and so Trump loved having him
Has some
there
great
because
rants. To be honest, he has some funny rants.
he got so many better deals because he had John Bolton in the room. So I think Marco Rubio is not that extreme, but I think he'll get something similar where it's like a good cop, bad cop
Donald
situation.
Trump did go and speak to someone in the Middle East. I can't remember which country it was, and they said, "I don't want any more Americans to die. We're going to leave on this day." And not another American died for like 18 months. They just stopped killing. There was no more
Afghanistan
fighting.
and the
Afghanistan,
Taliban.
yeah. And then he said, like in the meeting, it's reported that he basically just took out a piece of paper and there's a photo of the Taliban leader's house, and he's like,
Oh, I did see that.
Like,
yes,
I'll blow
on
your house
interview.
up and kill
Yes.
everyone in your family if you kill another American. And then they're just like, you know what? Actually, we don't want to do that. We are going to stop fighting. I think that's perfectly fine. We don't need some guy who wants to get involved in, you know, fighting Russia and China and Chile and Brazil. Like, just everybody calm down.
Yeah.
No fighting.
It's better for the world, I think.
I'd like just trade.
I
I'll
don't-
play a
yeah,
bit of Civ.
I'm not
I like
a, I'm not a
trading.
big war guy. I think that's
War
probably
is
bad.
it's a waste of
Yeah, it's not
Plus,
good.
I'm a military age male. I don't want to get drafted
Oh,
and
yeah?
die.
No,
Yeah.
I think I'm
Yeah.
getting, I
Also-
think I'm pushing it. I'm getting up there.
No, you're in your early 30s. What are you talking about? This guy, I've got a gimpy leg though. For anyone watching in the government, like,
Just wait till you're 40, then be
I've
really
got
pro-war
asthma.
after that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
yeah,
I can
be
do it.
pro-war once you don't have to fight for it. Okay, great. I think we might wrap it up here, and then we're going to get into a first thought about political philosophies and what types of government work for different types of people.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it'll as much as you like it or dislike it, the upcoming stuff to do with Trump is the most interesting change in like cabinet and all this sort of stuff. It's like out there. We have no idea.
You're going to
what's
have some
happen.
real change.
It's
Is what you're thinking.
I mean,
Nothing similar has
some stuff
happened,
I
really.
dislike a lot.
Yeah.
Some stuff I'm like interesting, but it's great. It's not crazy, but it's different, more different than it's been in a very, very long time.
Yeah, new political landscape, absolutely.
It's crazy, yeah. But,
Just rewriting the
interesting
rules.
stuff.
This has been Two Blokes in a Cave, trying to get out of the cave. See you later.